so why don't we go ahead and get started. Allison and I are super excited for this session. First of all, my name is Steve Wynn. I am a program manager with the Viva Engage product and engineering team. Allison?
Allison Michaels. I'm also a customer program manager on the Viva Engage product team. Been around for a long, long time. Yeah.
So we lead our customer experience team. We get the great honor of connecting with a lot of you customers. We've probably spoken with many of you on calls or been on calls with you, but we just really love connecting and learning from you all and sharing a lot of best practices. Both Allison and myself, just by way of a little bit of history, both came to Microsoft or joined Microsoft through the Yammer acquisition, which was, gosh, a dozen years ago now, seems like forever ago. But in my role at that time, I was a customer success manager, so I've had a lot of experience in working with customers, seeing the good, bad, and the ugly of what our customers have done. Allison also played a lot of roles with our customers.
Yeah, I did a lot of training, executive coaching, community building, events, kind of everything in between.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot with our customers, and one of the things that I think is a common pattern over the many years that we've been working with our customers, a common trait is leadership engagement. When leaders are participating, when leaders are involved, it generally raises all tides and gets the rest of the employee base much more involved. So that's going to be the primary part of our talk today, and helping you understand how to get leaders more involved. But a little bit about why we're here today. This is from a recent study from Fortune magazine. I think this came out earlier this year, but you can see some of the data here, especially when we talk to people that are in HR roles, people that care about employee engagement. You see some of the concerns that HR leaders have with regards to creating experiences, creating engaging experiences for employees. Of course, things like employee retention are top of mind for a lot of HR leaders as well. So creating great experiences, creating an engagement within the organization, top of mind for a lot of leaders, especially in the HR space. This is something we've also been sharing of late, and I'll break this down a little bit for you. But what our data science team did was we looked at the tens of millions of users that use Engage on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And what we did is we broke it down into different cohorts. And so what you'll see here is that at this bottom blue line, I'll start with this bottom blue line. The bottom blue line, these are people that within the first 90 days of joining the organization, they took no action on Engage. They didn't log in, they didn't view, they didn't do anything at all. On the flip side, this top dark blue line, these are people that within the first 90 days of joining the organization, they took the action to post something on Engage. And so what you see here, about 2.5 or so years later, there's a 33% difference in the number of people that are still retained within the organization. So for people that took the action to post on Engage, they were 33% more likely to be retained as an employee in the organization than not. The next level down, these are people that took the action within the first 90 days to react to a post, a thumbs up, a heart, a laugh, whatever it is. They took the action to react to a post. They were still 22% better at being retained as an employee in the organization. And then this other lighter blue line, these are people that in the first 90 days, they took the most passive of actions of all. They only viewed a post. But you can still see here, they're still 11% better at being retained as an employee in the organization. Now, Allison and I aren't here to tell you that Viva Engage is a silver bullet, that you're going to retain all your employees, you're going to save tons of money by having Engage. But what we do find interesting is that when you create a platform, you create a place for your employees to connect and engage with leaders, that they're more likely to be retained because they're able to actively participate in the culture of your organization. Now, we'll come back to why this retention information is available and how this could be beneficial for you in your networks in just a little bit. This other piece is interesting, and I think this is probably one of the theses for the rest of our conversation. Just like we talked about, we've sort of known intuitively over time that as leaders are participating, as leaders are engaging in your network, that it raises all tides across your network. And you can see this here in the data. We actually have some new capabilities where you can now identify who leaders are within Engage. You can identify audiences within Engage. And because of that, we have some new data that tells us that when a week after receiving a reply from a leader, daily active engagements are up over 6% across the network. Now, I often joke that if I made a post and Satya liked or reacted to that post, I'd probably screenshot that. It'd be like the wallpaper on my phone. I'd be showing my whole family, right? Would I come back to engage the next day? Absolutely. So, and then the next piece that, daily active engagements are up over 9% month over month when leaders are participating. So leaders have this outsized impact on your network. They really help to set the tone for a lot of the activity that happens across Engage. And so this is the foundation for some of the things that we're going to talk about today. We want to create a place, we'll talk a little bit about how you can establish very specific channels for your leaders to interact, how you can create compelling content. It's not just about getting your leaders to participate, but we'll show you some examples of really compelling content that draws people in and engages your employees. How to reach your target audiences, engage both leaders and employees bi-directionally. If you've been in any of our other sessions yesterday and today, a big part of the conversation is multi-directional conversations. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with leveraging AI. So you can, after you've done all these activities, how do you go back and measure and really look at some of the outcomes of those things?
But before you get started, there is a little bit of legwork that you, either as communicators or the IT folks, need to work together to start to identify some of these pieces so that way you can have rich two-way dialogue with your leaders. We do have capabilities now in Viva Engage to identify leaders, and I call them like the big L leaders versus your lowercase l leaders, right? You have the ability to tap on the shoulder of specific people and I'll say turn up the volume so that maybe their level of influence matches what they need to share. Of course, we have the ability to kind of add delegates, and then for each of your leaders, you can have different audiences, whether that's based on role, team, existing communities, and all of those need to be set up. You can even set these up even if your leader doesn't want to even say anything for the next month, but just starting to get a little bit of analytics about what their audience is up to inform them of what they could and should be posting or contributing. And then the last piece is establishing channels. So I'll talk about that in the next slide of the different types of channels that you can set up. So there's a couple of different channels within Viva Engage, and some of these might be familiar to you and some might be a little bit different. The first is kind of all company. I urge you today, corporate communicators, take back your all company. Start being thoughtful and strategic about the way that you use all company. This is an incredible, powerful channel that you have today that's included in your existing Microsoft 365 licensing. Take that back. Start to figure out how you can rebrand it. You can restrict the community so only admins can post. Again, allowing for the more influential voices to have the more appropriate amount of reach. So that's kind of one area of a channel to really think about from an organization perspective.
Real quick, before you move on from all company, I think this is definitely an area to consider. As Allison is saying, we see a lot of our customers, taking all company, restricting it to only admins so they can post. Traditionally, all company has been this place for you to post to everybody in the company. And I think there's also a consideration here where Storyline, our sort of new capability around Storyline, could help sort of fill in for a lot of the ways that people used to use all company. So you can still create all company for this corporate communications platform or channel, and still have people use Storyline as a way to have those other types of conversations they used to have in all company.
So I have an accidental viral post when a poor intern, very first day at Microsoft, posts into all company, doesn't realize she's posting to 200,000 people, and she kind of accidentally goes viral. And it's a great post, beautiful, everybody's celebrating, welcome to Microsoft. Would have been an awesome opportunity for her to just post on her Storyline to have a more appropriate amount of reach, because not the entirety of Microsoft needed to welcome her. I need to follow up with her to see if she became a full-time employee, because that would be a really great story. So just kind of having that opportunity, to give people the right amount of reach and influence based on kind of who they are in the organization. The second piece is the targeted communities. And these kind of crisscross in a variety of ways, whether they're based on role or region. You can create dynamic groups kind of backed by Entra ID. So especially if you have existing distribution lists A lot of our customers convert their distribution lists kind of over into communities as well. This can be done very, very easily. And then the community membership, the users can join or opt in, or they can be automatically added. A lot of times the customers that we work with kind of start out with I'll say a handful, maybe 10 or so official communities that as a new hire, maybe they're entered in based on who they are, where they live, what role they're in, and maybe a few official, like a travel community. If you're joining us tomorrow, there's a deep dive on communities, so feel free to join us for that conversation as well. We'll go into a lot of different details about communities. And then this last piece that's a little bit newer is the concept of storyline. Steve alluded to it a little bit earlier, but your leaders also have the ability to have a storyline. And if you're a little bit nervous of like, oh my gosh, I don't want everybody in my organization to have storyline, that's okay. You do have the ability to kind of turn it on by user and by specific people as well. So a handful of our customers have done that. They've selected a few elevated voices that they want to have a storyline where their leader can post specific things and kind of build their brand and build their platform within the organization as well. Also within the storylines, a leader has the ability to create an announcement which pushes out specific notifications in Teams or in Outlook as well. And we'll show you lots of examples of leaders using storylines in the next couple of slides. So stay tuned for real examples, because sometimes I have a few customers that their leaders love communities. And I don't know if this is like any of you, but it's kind of like when a leader is always posting in a community, it's kind of like when your parent shows up to the party and you're like, I'm on my best behavior. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. And so it's also kind of giving them an opportunity for others to join into the conversation in the community if they have another place or a more elevated platform to kind of post to as well, to kind of bring other voices into the community.
Yes, and as we go to the next part, maybe it's worth also explaining a little bit about the background of storyline. And really, storyline, it's not a new concept, right? It's posting to your wall, if you will, or posting to your profile. You do that on Facebook or LinkedIn, things like that. But during the pandemic, we talked to a lot of companies, specifically leaders at companies, and they said, we want to get a message out about the pandemic. We want to get, we want to send something out, but an announcement in the community doesn't really match the way I want to be able to communicate to my employees. I want to create a followership. I want people to be able to, follow me and hear a message about me, from me. And so that was really where Storyline was born, was from talking with leaders that said, and then also talking with corporate communicators saying, we want everybody in the company to be able to follow my leader or follow the CEO or follow given leaders within the organization. So this was sort of the unmet need that a lot of our customers had during that pandemic time. So coming out of that, that's where a lot of Storyline came from.
All right. The other piece about Storyline, when you build audiences, you can automatically kind of have employees be a part of an audience, and we'll show why that matters in a couple of slides. Or people can self-select to follow leaders. So maybe they're just leaders that are a step or two outside of your peripheral or your org chart. You can choose to follow, or you're automatically assigned to follow them as well.
And when we set up those audiences, when that leader makes a post, we use that audience information to sort of, I'll say, boost that leader content into that audience's feed as well.
Yeah, gives different signals kind of in the background as well. Okay. All right. Let's take a moment and think about how your employees consume information. How many of you are in Instagram? Okay, how many of you brave souls are on TikTok? I can't be on TikTok, it's so addicting, right? We know that so many, we literally searched M365 conference on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and all of the different Microsoft content. We kind of see the content that is coming. It's rich, it's short, it's snackable, it's video-based, lots of images as well. So I just want you to kind of have that picture in your mind of how you're consuming content in your personal life, and what could that look like as you consume content in your work life, and especially from your employees' work life. And it's kind of a little bit of a transition of what does a communicator want, and how the employees, how do they want to consume information? Sometimes that could be a little bit different, right? And so it's kind of, where do we meet them at where they're at?
How many of you have a central place that you go to in your personal life to consume information? Like a one-stop shop? Yeah? Where do you go? Reddit? Okay. Anybody else?
Gosh, I can't get on Reddit either. I'll be there for days.
Reddit, and to that point, though, Reddit is still sort of feed-based, right? Would you say, in a lot of ways? You maybe go there and search for specific things, too, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think if you were in John Cerrone's session last time, I'd say he raised some eyebrows when he made a comment around the intranet not being the only place, like the single place that people go. I think that can be somewhat controversial in these circles. And I think what we're not saying that the intranet is by all means not a place that employees go at all. It's certainly an integral part of a communication strategy. I think what we're also saying is that there's new ways that people want to consume information, and that single sort of intranet homepage is not always the place people want to go to consume everything.
And we're going to take you on a journey of how this has changed at Microsoft over the last, I don't even know, last 18 months or so. But we've got a couple of different data points where we want to show you how this has impacted our org from a why connections matter. Why does building your network matter? And kind of all these different pieces where employees were connected with leaders in ways that they've never been before. Additionally, folks are able to interact with leaders 5 above and below them of all different sorts of organizations and roles within Microsoft. Additionally, we've got 3 times more of the ability to connect and kind of 3 steps away. Again, showing that cross collaboration that we really truly want to build kind of across the different silos, right? We're in the product group. We work a lot with sales and marketing. So kind of all those different cross, and we've started to track that within our network of truly how cross collaboration really is taking place across our network. And then, of course, the retention rate, and we'll dive into that in a little bit, as well as what does that actually look like from an Engage perspective.
So let's talk a little bit about reaching audiences. And I think we're in a time where there's lots of information coming at us. Again, quoting John's session, this was very memorable to me the last hour or so. But he said something in the last session to the effect that we can't control information overload. What we can control is prioritization. And I thought that was a pretty interesting statement. It's like, there's always going to be news and information, knowledge coming at us. What we can do is we can help sort through that for our employees. And so what we've done here is we've sort of broken things down into sort of 2 primary segments. Communications that are overall important and urgent, and communications that are overall important but not so urgent. So on the left side, these are things that you want to get out to your employees right away. It's important. They need to react to it. They need to consume it. It's something that they need in order to maybe get their job done or attend some sort of activity or event. Important and urgent. You need to actually notify your employees of that. You want a push notification. You want an email notification to go out. Something in their face that lets them know that that's an important, urgent message. On the other hand, there are certain important messages from leaders, but maybe they're not as urgent. Maybe it's a thought leadership piece. Maybe it's something that you're just trying to. A leader wants to just let people know about some new product that's coming up or getting ready to be released, but it's not super urgent, or say maybe it's early. We're going to show you examples of these different types of communications as we go, but just wanted to start off by just foundationally setting the stage for important and urgent, important and not urgent messages, and the importance of each of those.
And I think a key thing is we're not telling you that we want you to communicate more. We want you to interrupt less. And so what does that look like? So being thoughtful about the ways and how you communicate really do have an impact.
And the other thing is it's about creating a rhythm with employees, I think. And in some cases you do, like we said, you do need some sort of announcement or some sort of push to get in front of people's faces. But in some cases, there's a rhythm that you want to create with a cadence of your leaders posting. Even Satya recently, I think he's been posting to his storyline even more, to the point where I think it's like once a week or so, Dan, about twice a week, that now employees can sort of expect to hear from Satya in that medium. But we don't get any emails from him, like maybe two emails a year. Again, that would be interrupt and urgent to get an email from Satya. The rest of it is just sort of important and not urgent. So some of these examples. So this first example, this is Omar Shaheen. Omar is our corporate vice president for Microsoft Word. He just wants people to know, hey, we just created this great resource for you to use Word with Copilot, and he posted to his storyline, just as an awareness piece, all right?
Wait, is this a record? 20 minutes in and we mentioned Copilot? Is that a record for M365 conference?
Drink. Now you get your drink in.
Thanks.
Yep. February, Black History Month. Certainly a great opportunity for leaders to lean in and celebrate these milestones, celebrate these moments where we want to celebrate diversity and inclusion within our organizations. February is, a month long, and this is not an urgent thing that a leader needs to get out, but certainly during the month, a great opportunity for leaders to celebrate events like Black History Month. This is Jeff Teeper. So what Jeff does, and speaking of creating a rhythm and creating a cadence, this is something that Jeff does. He does what he calls a Fast Friday update. So have you ever wondered what is Jeff's title? Whatever. Grandfather of SharePoint. What is the grandfather of SharePoint?
You might be offended, grandfather.
The grandfather? No, what's the...
Father.
The father, okay, the father of SharePoint. What does the father of SharePoint do on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis? And so what he does, he posts this video onto Engage. Here's what I did for the week. And this is from a couple weeks ago, but for the one he did this past week, he talks about getting ready for M365 conference, meeting with customers, really strengthening our posture on certain product areas. And so again, he does this every single Friday. You can go back to the storyline. You can see every Friday he's been posting, with a couple of exceptions. We allow him to take days off here and there. But for an employee just wondering what a leader does, this is a great way to get insights into what a leader like what Jeff does. And I don't have to consume it right away. This is another great example. Catherine, how many of you have interacted with Fast Track before? Great. Catherine is our corporate vice president over Fast Track, and she does this. She doesn't do it on a scheduled basis as much as Jeff does. However, she does do these sorts of updates very frequently. She's also one of our diversity and inclusion champions, and she'll often post interviews that she's doing with employees about their lived experience within Microsoft. Here, she often talks about top of mind, earnings report. What came out of the earnings report? What are the top things that are happening within Fast Track? What are the top things happening within her organization? She talked about a vacation she recently took with her kids to LA. And she often incorporates her personal life into these updates as well, which is one of the beautiful things about what Catherine does with her updates is not only do I get a perspective of who she is as a professional, as a corporate vice president here at Microsoft, but I get a great view of who she is as a human being as well. So a great way to humanize your leaders is to use video, is to use storyline.
Just really quick about Catherine, for those of you who are comms folks who support leaders, she does that in about 2 or 3 takes at the first kind of run where she was starting out, has a prompt, kind of gives a couple of bullets of the things that she wants to do. And now it's kind of maybe 1, 2 takes. She does it directly in Viva Engage. So pretty easy to do, and very, very lightweight for them to do and run it. No high video production or anything like that. And oftentimes it's just right in her home office. So it's really, really kind of simple to turn on the camera and just have her go.
They're short. The Jeff update, less than 5 minutes. Catherine, I think like 3 to 4 minutes. So super brief, super snackable. Again, thinking sort of the TikTok short video style, those are the styles that we're talking about here. And then this one from Satya. Satya recently made a trip over to India to meet with customers, to meet with certainly folks at Microsoft as well. He did a town hall, and what his team did was they took the town hall and they broke it down into highlights, and then Satya posted it to his storyline. So again, not something super urgent that I need to stop my day to go find out what Satya did in India, but certainly something that showed up in my feeds as Satya posted, as this came out, and as it started showing up in my feed, something that I could consume on my own time. You can see here, 140 as of whenever the screenshot was taken, 145,000 views from across Microsoft.
And this is just an example of he was already going to do this town hall, right? This is content that they were already going to do. The comms team had already invested in this. So this is their opportunity to take what is already done of the leader, to package it in smaller ways, to reuse, squeeze a lemon, right? The leader's already doing it. This is not net new. Yeah. They're already doing it. Super simple text on top. Throw it up there. I don't think they would have ever imagined how many views they would have gotten. Allison, I live in Ohio. I was definitely not invited to the India town hall, but I got to hear a snippet of what was top of mind there. Didn't have to interrupt my day, spent 2 or 3 minutes watching, checking, and then keep moving on.
Yep. So yeah, a great example from that you made, Allison, is reuse existing content that your leaders are already creating. All right, so now some examples of important and urgent. So where you want to have some sort of call to action from employees. You want to get this in the face of your employees. In this case, a lot of these communications, if not all of these examples that we're going to share, were announcement driven. So by doing in either a storyline announcement where we want to direct it to a specific audience and notify them of those things, or if it's in some cases like this one, this is an announcement within a community. So this one was just one we did back in December with Brad Smith and Charlie Bell, really just re-emphasizing our stance on security with employees, and they wanted to make sure that this was sent out as an announcement so that people could know that this new content was available and there to consume. Kurt Koenigsbauer, he runs all of Viva. This is important because the haiku is sort of interesting if you read the message itself. But the intent of the message is we recently had what we call our employee signals, which is our employee engagement survey, our annual employee engagement survey. As you know, the more people that respond to the survey, the better results, the better feedback that you're going to get overall. And so this is a message from Kirk overall sending out to his entire what we call data platform and growth organization saying, hey, everybody in DPG, please go make sure you take the survey. It closes on Friday. There's a deadline to this. So there's urgency around this. He wants people to go take this so that we can have quality employee engagement or employee feedback to react to.
I love that because what happened is employees responded with haikus.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the brilliant. And it was just something fun because it was like, oh gosh, not another message for me to complete the employee survey. But it was fun. It showed a little bit of his personality. He used Copilot, and then employees could respond and contribute right in the dialogue and in the conversation.
I think people responded with their own haikus of how that they responded, that they did take the survey.
You got it. So
we recently did a campaign in Engage around employee resource groups, really promoting the ability or the availability of our employee resource groups and promoting the membership in a lot of the employee resource groups at Microsoft. And we did a campaign called #ERGEngage. So I think it was a week long or a couple days at least campaign. Lindsay Ray McIntyre, she's our Chief Diversity Officer, so she, again, she's trying to activate employees. And so in this case, she sent out an announcement on her storyline, and actually we did it in several communities as well. But she wanted to activate employees, let people know about this campaign that's happening and getting people involved in participating in the campaign, either joining ERGs, posting to Engage, the benefits that they get from participating in ERGs, super vibrant. If we went to our ERG Engage campaign page, just super vibrant page of people sharing the ERGs that are most meaningful to them, why they participate in various ERGs. Even like this is one of the most active campaigns for our leaders too. There was a moment where I went into the ERG campaign. There was a post from Lindsay Ray. There was a post from Brad Smith. There was a post from Satya, Deb Cupp. If any of you know Deb Cupp, she's the president of US sales at Microsoft. She had a post. So like tons of leadership engagement within that campaign. Again, helped to drive a lot of participation within that campaign itself.
And a little bit of background, of course, there was a central team that had a couple of assets that the leaders could rinse and repeat. What are the sessions that they're really excited about? Give them all the content, and then the comms teams kind of helped them cascade the information. They had a few elevated voices that they made sure that those were announcements, but they said, go do what you need to do. Post it in your communities, post it on your storylines, kind of get the word out across the network. It wasn't a one size fits all. We're going to send one email and then everybody kind of cascades afterwards. It kind of built this network effect and hit areas of the organization that would have been really hard to do otherwise.
And of course, you can do all of these things within communities. You can do these things within all company. As Allison said, take back all company. Restrict it so if you want, so that you can have just your admins have sort of overall control. Overall company can sort of manage the conversations that happen within all company more globally.
All right, I love some of those examples. I promise we drink our own champagne at Microsoft, so we've got lots of really good examples. We're going to talk kind of and shift gears a little bit about how in the world did some of those examples get created and a few of the other types of examples of content. And there are some things that are out of the box, included already with your M365 capabilities. And then, of course, there's some things that are available within the Premium and the Viva suite, as well as the CNC. And we'll walk through a few of those. We'll walk through how some of our leaders are using Copilot, like the haiku example. I don't know if I could even come up with a haiku without Copilot. We'll also talk about the post on behalf of, draft and schedule. I remember showing draft and schedule to one of my customers and they were like, thank you. I have to get up at whatever time to post my Tuesday tips. And so I love draft and schedule. To me, that's like cooking with a crock pot. You set it and forget it and it's great. And so I do that all the time. I draft and schedule so you guys don't see my weird hours or whatever I'm working. And I know that's like a corporate communicator's dream. And then, of course, publishing files, communicating your messages with videos and images. As you've seen, everything is very vibrant. It looks, even the text is very simple and it's not very long. We'll also show you, though, what does it look like to have the long, rich text media as well. So we've recently introduced a new capability, kind of a long-form text-based within Viva Engage called articles, where our leaders are using them as blogs or guides or highlights. We'll show you a couple different examples and, of course, how to use Copilot in that, too. And then kind of the final point I mentioned a little bit earlier is just this ability to cascade messages in, I'll say, nooks and crannies of the organization that's really hard to get without kind of having all of these different channels and communities and storylines kind of across the network as well. I think the last point, and I think Dan and Jason mentioned this yesterday when they were talking, that was a really good, kind of good point, is just continue to modernize, continue to ask your employees, and with a question, ask for feedback, ask, as you're setting this up, ask Copilot, what questions are my employees going to ask? Or give me a call to action on this post to continue to make it a little bit more engaging, to kind of ask for that feedback. I know that oftentimes I've got a message I want to get out, and then I go, wait a second, how can I include my end customers on this post or on this type of content? So ask Copilot to see what it will let you, where it will share. Here's a couple of examples of, this is an example of an article, kind of looks and feels a little bit like a newsletter. You've got a cover photo. I literally lifted some content off of the adoption.microsoft.com site, copy pasted a few things, had Copilot help me write this. And this is also posted in my Copilot community as well. So that way it's really easy for my employees to find. I truly didn't spend that long on it, but it's kind of this long form content with Engage.
These really pop in the feed, by the way. If you go back, so that cover photo that you're able to add to the top of this article, that's what shows up in the feed, and it really pops when people are scrolling through the feed. That stands out. There's a piece right in the middle here, Allison, that little table thing. Yeah. That's an image, actually, right?
Yep.
So,
this is an image.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this came from a lot of feedback from you all wanting to incorporate images into the body of your post. So this is one of the ways that we've been able to do that is through this article capability.
The other thing that I will say is I know some of our leaders have really big anxiety of pulling up the cover photo. You guys, it doesn't matter. Just pick something. Just get started. Try it. We're definitely having something is better than nothing and not getting it out there. But try a few different cover photos. If you don't have an officially branded cover photo, it's okay. You can see a variety of ours. We've used pictures of faces. We've used kind of just light designs. We've used branded ones. And, we've kind of have a mix. Our teams get really, really creative in the ways that they use cover photos. But just don't get hung up on that. Get your content out. I know some of our leaders do great thought leadership pieces and they kind of get stuck on, but I don't have a really pretty cover photo. Something is better than nothing. We want to hear, your employees want to hear what you have to say. That was to you, Jason. Here's kind of an example. We talked a little bit about the Lindsay Ray, kind of the initial post. This is kind of highlighting specific leaders. The comms team created just really simple images to cascade that message. Very specific, kind of for Frank Shaw. Frank Shaw is our CVP of marketing. And he's posting, sharing, including the hashtag, that officially branded hashtag. So one of the things, though, that I love is I love the little bit of personality that Frank shows in the reply. I don't know if you can kind of quite see that, but he's kind of committed to baking bread. And so he kind of says they had a watch party for some of the ERG Engage. And so he was like, I think I bit off more than I could chew. I didn't realize how much. And so just a little bit of fun, a little bit of personality, kind of showing himself and, his bread baking capabilities. But I love how that kind of pops in the feed.
I think that's also key, by the way, is top level, what we call thread starts from leaders are great. Obviously, we want those. But those replies, when your leaders are going in, replying to posts, answering questions, asking questions themselves inside of those threads, expressing curiosity, I think those are also the really magical moments when they're actually digging into the comments and participating in the replies.
And we'll show you how to find those conversations that they should be participating in. So we'll show you that shortly. Another example, I think you saw this from Catherine, again, posted in just using very, very simple tech in the background to record a video. And I don't even know if she has a ring light. So don't let the ring light stop you from recording content as well.
I think she does.
You think she does?
Yeah, she does. Not in that one, but she does.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if you can see this one, but it's like an animated GIF that our comms folks, when they're talking about Copilot, look how vibrant and it moves and it's interesting. And, again, it catches your attention. Very maybe different than some of the other types of communication that they have created. The other pieces is majority of this was created with, I think, Designer or Copilot, kind of because they don't have graphic designers on their team. So they're using all resources as possible. Really simple. We've really leaned into the Copilot and the airplane theme, but just very simple, that slight movement. Thinking, again, the videos and the content that you consume on consumer social, very similar to that, bright in the feed, to catch people's attention so they can learn more about, for example, this is Copilot in Teams and chat.
Maybe I just have a simple mind, but when this showed up in my feed the other day, that little rotating Copilot, it just drew in my attention. It just made me want to read the post, just little animations.
And I just have a really quick demo of using that articles capability. So I've gone in, I've opened up Copilot within articles. I've already added a really simple cover photo. I want it to help me create a guide to Copilot in Viva Engage that just went GA on Monday. Yay! And so it creates a very simple step-by-step. I'm looking it over, making sure that it's mostly accurate, pretty accurate. Go through, I can rich text, add the different rich text. I can bullet. I can number, and then of course include the official hashtag. So it'll show up in the campaign as well. Select where I want to post it. It kind of gives you the what you see, what you get before you post it. So you can double check it. And then it shows up beautifully. That's not the one I posted. It's further down, but this is kind of what that hashtag Learn Copilot campaign looks like as well. So that's really, so again, for those longer form content, you don't have to start from scratch. You can ask Copilot to help you. You can ask Copilot to kind of help refine some of the things and give you a starter as well.
All right, so now you've done all this work to get your leaders involved. You convince them that this is the right thing to do. You've created amazing content. You've gotten your employees engaged. You've gotten them participating in all this content. Now you want to go back and measure what some of the outcomes are. What's been the effect of doing all of this? Again, for those of you that were in John Cerrone's session last time, I think this is important, first of all, to show, because I'm going to get into some of our network analytics. It can be pretty easy just to jump in and see, what do the analytics show? What's the data show? We're going to get to that in just a minute. But I think this is important also to show, because this came from a survey that John and his team did after having some participation, after having some results on Engage. They went back to employees and said, how do you feel about this change in the way that we're communicating with you and having leaders communicate with you? What's been the effect of this change? And you can see that here, the second column down, we do these AMAs, Ask Me Anything events. Employees are loving that. They're saying that they want more of those things. As far as leaders participating on Engage, you see that the score went up since the last time they did the survey. And you can read some of the comments here from employees about how this has affected their ability to engage directly, bi-directionally with leaders. So don't underestimate going back to employees with surveys to understand the impact of the communications that you've done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig into some of the specific, and I'm going to take a seat here for this, some of the analytics that you can go into to understand what some of the activity looks like for your network. So first of all, Mona, let's say in this case, she's created this announcement, and she wants to go back later on and see what has been the effect of this particular announcement that she has made. So we have conversation analytics. So within the conversation analytics, you have a lot of rich data here. You can see the type of engagements, how many reactions, and where sort of the breakdown of reactions, comments, bookmarks. We've been talking about the sort of multi-channel approach that Engage takes, where your employees can consume this content and across many different endpoints. They can do it on the web. They can do it within Teams. They can do it in mobile or Outlook or SharePoint. And so within this, for this specific conversation itself, you can see where did people consume this from? Did they consume it mostly from web, or did they do it mostly from Teams or Outlook or SharePoint? Where did they actually react from? I can get a breakdown of that information. Where did they actually view this message from? So you get a nice breakdown of how they actually, what channel they actually consume this content from. Some trends about the conversation. Here you see it was pinned in a certain place, and you can see after it was pinned, that activity around this particular conversation went up. We also will provide sentiment for this particular thread. So is the thread trending positive? Is it trending negative? We'll also break down and show you themes within the thread itself, and I can see which comments within the thread are contributing towards the sentiments within that particular conversation itself. So some really rich analytics just about the conversations for you to dig into. I'm going to sort of go up a level here. And first of all, I'm going to start here in our audience analytics. So this audience analytics, what this is as Allison mentioned earlier, you have this ability to define leaders, define audiences. After you've done that step, now that leader can go in and see what does engagement look like specific to that leader's audience. By the way, the delegates for that leader can also go into the analytics and see this audience analytics. So it doesn't have to be just the leader. The leader's delegates also have access to these audience analytics. And so within that leader's audience, they can see what their sentiment is within their audience, what are some of the trending themes in the audience. So to Allison's point, now that leader can go in and see, all right, what are people saying around supply chain issues? Why is there a negative sentiment? We also identify the specific threads that are contributing towards this particular sentiment. So they can always drill in if they want to understand a little bit more about why people are talking about supply chain issues. We provide a little bit of an AI summary as well about what this particular theme is based on the conversations that are already happening. Here you'll also see information about announcements that are happening, activity within communities from this audience. This is an important one also that this isn't available just yet. We're going to be rolling this out really soon. A lot of you oftentimes ask, how do I compare with other organizations? Or in this case, what this is showing is a leader might say, how do I compare with other leaders in the organization? And so we're going to be providing some benchmarking information. In this case, this leader's knocking it out of the park. They're 25%. It says your engagement is in the top 25% of leaders in the organization, which is fantastic. Maybe, though, it's on the other end. Maybe this leader is in the bottom 25%. The place that we want to take this next is to provide a little bit of coaching, right? It's not enough for you just to have the data and say, you're doing terrible as a leader. But we want to be able to say, here are things that you can do as a result of having this score. And we want to use some of the data from above to say, hey, there's supply chain issues. Maybe you want to do an AMA around supply chain issues. So in the future, we want to incorporate coaching in addition to this benchmarking information. Top conversations that are happening within this leader's audience.
So roll up really quick to that top conversation. So if I'm a corp comms person responsible for a leader and my leader's got 5 minutes a week that they can participate, that is exactly where I'm sending them. Those top 5 conversations, go hit a like. That is my curated list. I didn't have to work that hard. I pulled it because these are the conversations that my leader's audience they're interacting across the network. Right? So maybe they're in communities that leader doesn't even have eyes on yet. So this is kind of, these are, if I had 5 minutes, those are the conversations that I would want my leader to participate in. Go like, go reply, go do something really quick.
Yeah, you all have given us great feedback around wanting to know what are the trending conversations, in this case, specific to this audience. That's what you're seeing here. What different post types are there? What are the most active communities within that leader's audience? So of course, dogs. Dogs is always the most active community in many of our customers' networks.
I like that one because again, if I'm going to ask a leader to post once a week for a month, maybe I can say, hey, one of those posts in the month, could you post about your pets in this dogs community? Because I know that majority of my audience is going to be interacting in that post. So if I'm going to have my leader post somewhere, right, it's informing where I want my leader to post next so it has truly the most impact, right? So if you're going to post once a week for a month, at least one of those posts should be a little bit more fun where your audience is. Make it last.
And talk about humanizing your leaders. Chris Capicella, our former chief marketing officer, he would oftentimes post in our Dogs at Microsoft community. We had a community, there's a community in our Microsoft network. It's like Netflix, Hulu, and all the things you can stream. He would post in there about the things he and his family are binging. So, all these things, are a little bit like to the side, but again, they sort of humanize your leaders in a fun way. I'm going to flip over here to network analytics. Lots of richness here to understand what's happening across the entirety of your network. This, by the way, is available to network admins and the corporate communicator role, if you've assigned the corporate communicator role within your network. The first thing I want to touch on is this new piece that we've added here, this new module around employee retention. So at the very beginning, we talked about looking at sort of the macro data that we've seen across all of the millions and millions of people that use Engage, the connection that we've seen to employee retention. So what we wanted to do, as we talked about this with customers, they said, we want to know that for our network. And so that's what we've done here. So for your individual network, you can see what does active engagement look like in Engage compared to employee retention within your organization. By the way, as a proxy for retention, what we're doing is when a new employee joins your organization, generally you're creating a new Entra ID for them. Generally, when they leave, you are deactivating that Entra ID. So those are the proxies we're using as when a person starts within the organization and when they leave. There are also some other signals that we've mixed in there to identify when a person is active or inactive within the organization. I won't go into all those details, but a lot of times that question comes up is, how do you know when people are coming and going from my company? Employee retention, a great way, again, for you to start to connect your investment in a platform like this to your stakeholders. Say, this is the effect, this is how it's affecting employee retention within our organization. Overall network activity, how many people have been reached, and then again, another piece of benchmarking here. In this case, what we're showing at a network level is how does your network compare to other similar sized organizations? So if your organization is 10,000, so we have a range of networks that are in that range, we're going to give you a benchmark of where you fit within that range of networks. Again, the next level to this, we of course want to incorporate benchmarking into this in the future. So if maybe your engagement is low, again, this is another opportunity where we'll in the future incorporate some benchmarking here as well. This is also important. A lot of you have wanted to know, because of that omni-channel approach that we provide, where are my employees participating in Engage? So you see, where are they posting from? Web, Teams, mobile, Outlook. Where are they commenting from? Where are they reacting from? Where are they viewing from? So you get this really great view of how your employees are participating in Engage.
That might come up on every single customer call I have, so.
Yeah. So yeah, certainly at the conversation level, wanting to know, but then at a macro level, understanding broadly where people are participating across the network is super important as well. Again, sentiment across the entirety of your network. We roll up the themes that are, this is using our large language models in GPT-4 to understand and extract some of these themes. And so you can click into any one of these themes, just like you saw with the audience analytics, to be able to see a little summary of what the theme is about and dig into some of the specific conversations you need to be able to do that. What's the efficacy of announcements? How quickly are they reaching employees? How quickly, what's the median time to first reaction or first view? Who are the frequent contributors within your network? Again, trending conversations across the entirety of your company, not just audience, but again, just to see what's happening across the whole company. What are some of those top conversations? Popular communities, and also we didn't touch on campaigns. We could talk about that if you want to go into that in more depth, but certainly as you're starting to run more campaigns, we have this central place where you can at least see in one place the activity across all those campaigns. There is an entry point up here at the top as well if you want to go into specific campaign analytics, but we'll leave that for a different time. But so some really great analytics for you to be able to understand, after you've gotten your leaders involved, to be able to report back to your leaders. By the way, after you're running if you did a Ask Me Anything event, we also provide some analytics after the AMA to provide information about how many questions were asked, how many questions were answered. We're going to continue to build on that, add things like summarization so that you can report back on the activity from that AMA to your stakeholders and to your leaders. So really great analytics. Hopefully these are helpful for you.
The personal analytics are kind of like the look back. How did my post do? The audience analytics is like maybe informing what I could do next based on what my people are talking about, what my audience is talking about. Cool.
All right. So I think we've gone through all of this. So Allison, why don't you take us home?
Sure. We have about 5 minutes left, but let's just do a quick recap before you all leave us. Just definitely take a step back. Think about the current content landscape that your organizations have. What are you guys currently doing? How could you continue to amplify some of the messages, repurpose, reuse, repackage, give that snackable content another life or a second life within using tools like Viva Engage? And then figuring out how your leaders can fit into that. Where can you balance the disruption, the distraction, all the different notifications? How can you start to kind of balance that urgency and those different messages as well? The other piece is too, I would say, is start with the leaders who are willing to go first, and use them as great examples. As you probably heard earlier with John, we didn't do this overnight. This has taken a while for some of our leaders, even at a tech company like Microsoft, to feel comfortable with some of this as well. So, start with the ones, I'm sure you already know who those leaders are, who are ready to kind of get up and share. So start with those and use those as kind of an example. And then think about the baby steps for the other leaders too. And then hopefully you've gained a little bit of inspiration for the content that you've seen about what this could look like in your own networks. And then of course the ability to measure and think about how does the current content and the current posts do, and then what could we do in the future. The last couple of things I would just say is start thinking about who those leaders are, your big L, little L. Start to think about the different audiences and your different channels of communication, and think about how you can continue to amplify, listen, and engage with those employees. I think that's
Great.
it.
Well, we want to thank you all. We know you have a lot of different sessions to choose from, a lot of overlapping things. Thank you for choosing our session. Hopefully you found some value. Hopefully you got some takeaways from this. Hopefully you have a great conference. Enjoy the night at Universal. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.